Welcome to Greenhouse Grower to Grower, the podcast where we're shaping the future of floriculture one conversation at a time. We talk with the growers, leaders, and innovators shaping tomorrow's greenhouse industry today. From market trends, next generation plants, and innovative production, to the challenges and breakthroughs redefining what it means to grow. I'm Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower. Let's dig into what's next together. Earlier this year, Amy Ryan assumed ownership of Stonehouse Nursery, a Southwest Michigan-based wholesale grower of native and classic perennial liners. Amy's roots at Stonehouse Nursery go back nearly 30 years when she first joined the summer potting crew. She earned her degree in nursery and greenhouse production and management from The Ohio State University, and after gaining additional industry experience, she returned to Stonehouse Nursery in 2016 as the nursery manager. In this conversation, I caught up with Amy to talk about how her background helped prepare her for this new role, how the transition process at Stonehouse Nursery took place, and why she's excited about the future. Here's our conversation. So, Amy, thanks for joining me on the podcast today. I love having conversations with new owners in this industry. So, it's great to catch up on that.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to chat.
Sure, absolutely. Let's start with, and we'll talk a lot about your new role at Stonehouse Nursery. But before we get to that, let's talk about just basically what Stonehouse is. So, the crops that you guys grow, the customer base that you have, et cetera.
Okay. So Stonehouse Nursery is a wholesale liner producer.
Okay.
We're located in Southwest Michigan, and we have about an acre of growing space under cover, and
Okay.
then an additional half acre outside for stock production and
Okay.
some crops that we grow that way.
Okay.
And yeah, so our main product is a 2-inch landscape plug,
Okay.
and we specialize in a vernalized perennial plug.
Okay.
So we are potted and ready to go, loaded into winter, and then start shipping. We start shipping in January if customers want it,
Right.
and it's fun to see them going out dormant and having people realize what they're getting and being excited about these plugs. And so our product line is pretty diverse. We
Okay.
grow natives to patented cultivars,
Okay.
landscape staples to the more unique, and it's a really fun and eclectic mix. We've got echinacea. We're known for our vernalized echinacea.
Okay.
A number of different agastache, phlox, geranium, nepeta, lavender, rudbeckia, monarda. Again, your staples. But
Yeah.
then we grow about 16 different grasses and a nice selection of native plants. And our focus, probably in the last 8 years, has been working on that native line and
Yeah.
growing what we're offering and what we're investing in, and
Okay.
what we think is a good strong plants to put out for the industry.
Okay. Natives, it's interesting because I mean that's such a popular category in this market now. So, as you're talking to folks in the industry, how do you have that conversation in terms of, okay, what does native truly mean, and then how have you become a reliable supply of those native plant products?
Oh, that is a really interesting debate too, because
Yeah.
it kind of depends on your views and your definitions.
Right.
I've seen conversations with people that native is native. Native can encompass kind of the nativars, where we've found aspects of those plants that are maybe a little easier to grow, or
Okay.
they are a little less colonizing
Yeah.
in the garden, and so we kind of focus on those.
I one of the reasons that I wanted to have this conversation was I want to talk about your role there at Stonehouse. So you recently became the owner of Stonehouse Nursery. So, but before we get to that point, I want to talk about your own background in this industry, how you got to this point, and how your past experiences helped you prepare for this new role that you have.
Sure. So my background in this industry, I came into this industry in high school. I
Okay.
started at Stonehouse Nursery for a summer job.
Okay.
on the potting line, and then just kind of, again, summer work as a high school kid, trying to
Yeah.
save money for college and future. And I ended up going away from the industry for a while, and then came back to it. I went back to school for horticulture in my late 20s,
Okay.
and started working in the industry to take a break. I was in culinary arts. I took a
Oh,
break
nice.
for a summer, yeah, to go back and work at a wholesale nursery in Ohio.
Okay.
And then I was working there, and then went back to the kitchen in the winter. And it just was like, you know what? I really don't love this.
Okay.
So I ended up doing working at another nursery for another summer, and then decided to go back to school
Okay.
in, like I said, my late 20s.
Yeah.
And then just worked really hard to learn as much as I could. And when I got out of school, I went fully into this industry, and just realized how amazing it is. We
Yeah.
we are an industry of incredible people, and I love that everybody has a different knowledge base,
Sure.
and they're at different places. And I find that people don't tend to look down or create that feeling of not fitting in for people that are at different levels than them. We are
Mhm.
so welcoming and willing to share information and willing to help people grow and develop.
Sure.
And that really solidified for me, besides loving plants,
Yeah.
the people of this industry. Like, that was it for me. I'm like, I have found my place to be.
Well, and to your point too, there about stepping away from the industry for a bit, I think that that often helps because it helps somebody decide either, you know, that industry is not right for me and I'm going to try something new, or it helps you realize, I tried something new, it was fine, but I didn't really care for it. Now I'm going to go back to what I truly love. So I think that, that's always an important experience for somebody to have, especially it sounds like that for sure in a case like yours.
Yeah, and I remember being a kid, and my mom was an extensive gardener, and my grandmother and my aunt, we all lived very close. And I remember getting sent out to weed,
Hmm.
and I have the term of grudge weeding. I hated weeding, and so I'm like, I'm gonna weed this garden. Well, I'm not sure what that is, but that's coming out. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I pulled quite a few things that weren't supposed to come out. And so, that was, as a kid, I'm like, there's no way this isn't a thing. And honestly, I didn't even realize the vast opportunities that
Right.
horticulture was. It's not just, weeding and watering. There's so much here for a number of different interests and people. And it's really, really outstanding once you get into it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No.
as a kid, I never would have imagined. But then, you get into other things, and then you start to realize where you felt most at peace, or where you
Sure.
felt happiest, and then go back to that and start figuring out, okay, how can I build on this?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and so I mean, as you can imagine, the whole idea of transitioning of businesses and succession planning is a really important topic in this industry. I think you've seen a lot of cases where companies that aren't having that conversation will sometimes realize it too late that they have no plan in place for how to carry the business over either to the next generation, whether it's a family member or an owner or a new owner or whatever. So from your perspective, as you shift into this role as owner of Stonehouse, how did that conversation start with the previous ownership team, and then how did that progress along the way?
This is a fun story. So, um, so I have known Jay and Patty, own the previous owners of Stonehouse Nursery and
Okay.
Stonehouse Nursery, for a very long time. Actually, a
Mhm.
good portion of my life. Like I said,
Okay.
I um, started there in high school, weeding and potting, and came back for my internship as I was in the horticulture program at Ohio State ATI.
Okay.
I did my greenhouse internship there,
Nice.
and yeah, it was really, really just a great experience, and it helped give me a lot of perspective. But when I was looking for the next stage of my career,
Mhm.
um, We were living in Ohio, and I had two young kids, very
Okay.
young, 2 and 4. And Halloween fell on Saturday that year.
Okay.
So we brought the kids home back to my hometown to go
Right.
trick or treating with their grandma and grandpa. And I was coming in anyway, so I called Jay and Patty and made an appointment to go out and chat.
Yeah.
And I figured I would either get a job offer or just some really great advice. And so I went out Saturday morning, Halloween morning, and walking through the greenhouses and chatting. And part of what I come from a background, my dad had his own business, he was self employed.
Okay.
And I've kind of always wanted that for myself.
Yeah.
I think I'm a little off in the head, but I that's kind of always been in the back of my brain.
Sure.
And so when we were doing that walkthrough that Saturday morning in 2015, I was talking about what they were looking for. And I asked about what the long term plan for the nursery was and if there was any potential for partnership or ownership in the future.
Yeah.
And at that point, they had indicated that that was absolutely on the table.
Okay.
So that conversation started back in October of 2015.
Okay.
And then,
Wow.
yeah, I started January 2nd of 2016. It was a very quick changeover.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah, you don't see that too often where you're starting at a company with the knowledge that, I may be an owner someday. That's a interesting conversation to have, to say the least, I think.
yeah, but I was also to the point where I'm always planning.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for. Somebody told me this one time. They're like, you're always looking for your next move.
Mhm.
And I don't necessarily see that as a negative thing. If you're
Right.
not planning ahead, how do you know what you're working for?
Yeah.
And you have to be flexible. You have to realize the plan changes. But if you don't have something that you're working toward, it's hard to keep that forward momentum going.
Oh, sure.
So, this had been a goal for me for a long time,
Okay.
and that's kind of what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And to move my family from Ohio back to Michigan and back to my hometown, which I said I was never going to live in, uh, it had to be for a, a really good reason and a really good investment.
Right.
And that's what I saw this as. So
Okay.
when um, I started trying to learn as much as I could, and I started in production
Okay.
and as the nursery manager, but I was also working in production to try and help learn some of those things that I didn't know, learn, the Stonehouse methods, our plant line. I had been in trees and shrubs uh, in Ohio, and then I actually worked at Ohio State ATI as their greenhouse manager.
Huh.
I got hired back to where I graduated from, which was cool. So that was more like annuals and um, bedding plants and poinsettias
Yeah.
and working with students, which was awesome too. That helped teach me a lot of people skills that I didn't have maybe
Yeah.
prior to that. But
Okay.
so it was just part of that conversation in the initial. I'm sorry, I'm getting off course here,
No, no, this
but
is great.
we started kind of with that idea from the get go, and then I mean I can't tell you how many seminars, articles we read, webinars,
Mm.
all of those things that both Jay and Patty did and went to, and I myself was going to and reading and trying to figure out the way to do this. And we were kind of working toward that plan, and then it seemed like, you know, things kept derailing because of life things happening one way or
Oh,
another.
yeah.
And um, well, we all know what happened in 2020.
Yep.
COVID, like, I mean, we were going that direction, and then COVID happened, and it was 20 and 21 were just trying to make sure. Well, the beginning of 2020, nobody knew what was happening. Everything shut down. We're all wondering if we're going to have jobs, if we're going to have business, and then ag. Yeah, we're essential workers. Woohoo! Off to the races. And it was incredible what happened to our industry as a whole through that whole ordeal and process.
Sure.
And so we were just, batten down the hatches, get things done, keep going. And then, so we got through 21, breathed sort of a little bit in 22, had some crew issues that required a lot of attention in 23 that we worked through, and a
Okay.
few other bumps. And then 2024, Jay really got back to it
Okay.
and looking at options. And I mean, he was looking at all the different options as a possibility. What's an employee buy-in look at like? What does
Right.
a single buyer look like? I think they had somebody else that they were chatting to that was potentially interested in maybe a partnership or something. So there was a
Okay.
lot of things going on.
Yeah.
But then finally it was like 2025. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
at that point too, they were ready to make that forward progression.
Sure.
So um, fortunately for me, I really didn't have a whole lot that I had to do. It was because I wasn't the owner.
Right.
Jay and Patty figuring out their next steps, and valuation of the nursery, and
Yeah.
how we were going to structure this, and what the timeline and game plan was from their side. And then having that conversation with me, Jay honestly did the majority of that,
Okay.
while Patty and I were trying to business as usual, keep work rolling.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep things going. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think probably about June of last year really started the big conversations involving myself and nailing down details and
Sure.
timelines and things like that.
Okay. Okay. How is that transition process communicated to the team in place at Stonehouse then? Just so that, I mean, they know, okay, so there's, a new one. I mean, and I know that they were familiar with you at that time, having been there for a while, but how was that message then communicated to the rest of the team?
Um, well, we had a conversation. Well, we took everybody out to lunch around mid-December, like
Okay.
before layoffs.
Yeah.
And because I had been there for so long, and it was kind of a known thing
Yeah.
that it was probably going to happen, but nobody really knew a timeline.
Right.
So we ended up, when we knew we were finally in a place to move forward, because there had been so many like false starts,
Yeah.
and we didn't want to say something and put it out there before we knew we were actually in a place to make this happen.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, because we didn't want that back and forth and that constant,
Yeah.
distraction. So we went out to lunch with the crew in, I'll say, early midish December,
Right.
and let them know that Jay and Patty were selling the nursery,
Okay.
and yeah, they're selling the nursery and retiring,
Right.
and I'm buying, and I say that in with a little bit of a smile, because Patty's going to be working for me, or with me, I should say, for the foreseeable future.
Okay.
She loves this industry too much to walk away just yet. And Jay has is helping me through the big part of the transition, and then he has a whole list of stuff he wants to do, and he's got already trips planned and things for this summer and fall. But they're still around, and they're here to help me through the transition, which is really really helpful.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because, I mean, I haven't been in this industry for a long, long time, but I've been in it long enough to know that I don't know how many people actually retire. I mean, you can say that you retire a name, but
Yeah.
you're involved in, whether it's staying involved in the business, whether it's going to, to conferences and all that. I mean, you stay connected to what you're doing because it's part of you. It's been part of your life for so long. It's hard to take that step back sometimes. So
It is.
I definitely understand that.
And we have a lot of, they specifically have a lot of really strong long-term relationships in
Hmm.
this industry.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say goodbye to your friends,
Yeah.
and you don't want to do that. You want to go and keep having those conversations, or seeing people at the shows, and um, maintaining those relationships, because
Right.
that's a big part of life in general, and what we do.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So, as you have this new role now, so I mean, as you look ahead, what are some of the or what do you see as some of the biggest challenges or opportunities that are in front of you now as the industry as a whole continues to evolve? What's in front of you that that you're most looking forward to, or challenges that you'll have to work through to help maintain the success of Stonehouse Nursery?
Well, I think as a whole, I think we're all as an industry kind of in the same boat of challenges, people
Mhm.
and costs.
Yeah.
Um, you know, really don't find that to be unique, um, but it's different for all of us in our own businesses.
Right.
So I would say that I really see those as probably the biggest challenges.
Okay.
Um, Also, knowing which ideas and opportunities to focus on
Yeah.
now and which ones to kind of wait a little bit for and develop a little further.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we've got a really wonderful crew. It's been a process and a cultivation through the years, but we have a really strong, excellent crew at this point, and
Okay.
making sure that we maintain that and realizing again going back to relationships, this is a relationship. I need them to be successful and they need me for a job. So, we're we kind of we work maintaining that relationship and maintaining that level of respect and continue to realize and how to grow forward together.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think opportunities, again, continuing to develop the crew and give them the opportunities that they are looking for and they want for their own development and growth. Because
Yeah.
a lot of them do want new opportunities and they want to continue growing and developing. And I think that that's really important to support because a lot of people supported me through my years and my different positions. And I want to pay that forward and
Sure.
make sure other people have those opportunities.
Okay.
Plants
Hmm.
are a great opportunity. Determining how the product line continues to grow and develop.
Yeah.
We I love our product line. I like a lot of what we do.
Yeah.
There's always little tweaks and things. I love ferns. They confound me. I can't pronounce their names to save my life, usually, but I think that they are so interesting and they are so much fun to grow. And I'm trying to figure out how to add those to our product line.
Yeah.
So that'll be coming soon.
Okay.
Um, but try and what fits
Right.
for us because
Yeah.
not everything fits. And just because I love it doesn't mean it's gonna work,
Oh, sure, sure,
which is
of course.
sad.
Well, I mean, it's all about trying something new as too. I mean, and especially in your role now, I mean, gives you the chance to really look at something and look, we haven't done this in the past. Let's try something different, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, we learn something along the way, and we try something new again.
Yeah, I love a good challenge. If it's too easy, okay, but the next one's got to be challenging.
Right,
So,
right,
and trying to hone in some of the seeding that we're doing and how we increase germination rates, how we add something in and maybe crack the code on something that's a little confounding.
yeah.
Um, that's fun.
Oh,
That
sure.
keeps it exciting. Yeah,
Absolutely. You
yeah.
mentioned a couple minutes ago the support that you had along the way going through this process. So, kind of spinning a little bit, is there any advice that you would offer to somebody who's in, a similar a situation like yours, where they've been working at a company for a long time and they have the potential chance to take on, whether it's just a higher leadership role or in this case an ownership type level? Any advice that you would offer to somebody who's going through that process?
Be patient
Okay.
and communicate.
Mhm.
Um, Also, be willing to ask for advice, for help. Reach out to other people in the industry.
Yeah.
What I found, the different groups like PPA was a phenomenal group that I was able to get involved with as a student
Okay.
that actually really helped solidify that this was the right move, this was the right industry, this was the right place to be.
Yeah.
um, the IPPS, they are ridiculously supportive, and I say ridiculous, but I mean in a really really positive way.
Oh,
It's
sure.
um, if you have questions, ask. you reach out to your peers or somebody that might be a little bit at a different level. This industry loves to support each other, and
Yeah.
if you're interested in taking on a leadership role, talk to the people that you work with and see what they have or what they can offer you, or what they can help you find for opportunities.
Yeah.
If I had somebody come to me and say they wanted to increase their potential to be a supervisor, or they wanted to increase their propagation knowledge, I am looking for opportunities for them.
Yeah.
And I encourage them to look for opportunities for themselves and bring it to me. And let's see what we can do and how we can help you grow, because your growth helps me.
Yeah.
A little bit selfishly, I say that, but
No, it's true though. I mean,
absolutely. And as a whole, it helps our industry.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's something that I think is really important. Is we I generalize we, but it seems we as an industry realize that if we are not growing our industry as a whole
Yeah.
by improving and growing ourselves, growing our crew, investing in our industry, then we're really kind of cutting all of us off. We have to put in, and we have to adapt and realize that things are going to change. They
Yeah.
always do. And I think that's kind of something I'm looking forward to as well for the industry as a whole, is looking at how we embrace this next group coming up, the young horticulturalists, how we help them grow and find, and what they do to teach us, because we're always learning and growing, and there's always a different viewpoint or way of looking at something that really does some fantastic things. And I think we have a lot to learn from each other, and I look forward to seeing how that plays out.
Thank you for joining us. You can learn more about this and other topics at greenhousegrower.com, and you can also follow Greenhouse Grower on LinkedIn. Please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, and please leave us a rating or review, as it helps other listeners find the show. The Greenhouse Grower to Grower podcast is produced by the team at Meister Media Worldwide. I'm Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower.